Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Bit of a random one here. You, like me, might have been wondering, WTF is Code Vein? When you saw the March free games for the PlayStation Plus membership, I remember just hearing the name Code Vein, you know, it's like 2 or 3 years ago when it came out. 3, 4? 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know exactly. I just remember hearing the name Code Vein, but just didn't have any idea what it was. So let's get into that, because I just recently started playing this. I've only got like 2.5 hours in this game so far. 3 hours maybe. And I just wanted to sort of get out my first impressions of what this game is. Obviously, I'm not going to be reviewing this here or anything. This isn't a final review. But just my first impressions and my thoughts about Code Vein. What is it? Basically, the short, reductive descriptor is it's kind of like a anime JRPG version of Dark Souls. But it's more than just Dark Souls with a fresh coat of paint. There are some significant changes to the game from Dark Souls, which make it interesting. There's a lot of things about it that I like more. I don't know. Let's kind of get into it. One of the things that in my first impressions that I immediately noticed about the game is that it seems to be easier than Dark Souls, at least so far. I'm very, very early in the game. But you have these AI co-op partners that you can use at any time that you want. So it's like being able to play through the whole game of Dark Souls in co-op, but with an AI partner. There's also multiplayer and multiplayer co-op. I have not touched any of the multiplayer yet. I've only just sort of scratched the surface of this thing. But being able to play, just imagine being able to play through Dark Souls, the whole game with a co-op, with an AI co-op partner. It trivializes some of the, at least this earlier content, which makes it, I'm totally cool with that. If Dark Souls isn't hard enough for you, then you could tell your AI co-op buddy to, hey, just stay back, stay at the home base, and you can go do these levels all by yourself, which is perfectly doable too. And even then, I think it's probably so far a bit easier than Dark Souls. But I like having a co-op partner. The only thing that I don't like about having the AI co-op partner is sometimes if I'm trying to accomplish something specific in the level or with a certain enemy, that he will attack and kill the enemy before I get a chance to do what I want to do with the enemy. So, but that's a minor little quibble, to be honest with you. The other change from Dark Souls is that it's a lot more, at least initially, it seems a lot more complicated than Dark Souls, because this throws a lot of systems at you and options at you very fast. Like right at the beginning of the game, as you start the game, it takes you into a tutorial mode where it just throws a bunch of stuff at you that is overwhelming. And not only is it a bunch of new stuff to learn, the game also, of course, has to have their own terminology for everything. So not only do you have to learn, okay, well, this word, it basically means mana. This word basically means class system. You know what I mean? So you have to learn what all the new terminology is, and then you have to decipher what all the elements are. And for me, when they just deliberately overcomplicate things like that, it's off-putting to me at first. But to be honest with you, it's not that difficult once you sort of wrap your head around what everything is. It's actually not as complicated as it might seem initially. And I'm going to go through some of the whys and wherefores and of that sort of seemingly overly complex system right now. So if you look at this screen is very important here. This kind of gives you all your stats and stuff. So the main thing is this blood code. Now what you have to realize when they talk about blood code, it's basically this is your class system. Like, let's say like in Dark Souls you picked Pyromancer and you play the game for 20 or 30 hours and you realize, man, I wish I would have played a heavy weapons guy or a mage. You know what I mean? This, you can actually change your character class on the fly at any time that you want in mid-battle. So if you like running around with really heavy, chunky weapons that weigh a lot but do a lot of damage but are slow, and then you get into an area where you're like, oh, I want to use ranged weapons here and a light, quick weapon attack, or I want to do a lot of magical ranged attacks. You can switch your character class at any time, as many times as you want to, and that is incredibly liberating because you kind of like, with Souls games, you have to worry about going down this dark sort of rabbit hole, at least initially. I know with Dark Souls you can kind of do anything you want, by middle of the game you can kind of do anything that you want. But you don't have to worry about speccing your character in the wrong direction for what you might prefer in the later game. So that leaves your options much more open to play however you want and to be able to change how you play as many times as you want within the same level, within the same battle. It's kind of great. I kind of love it. Just like the fact that I love that it seems it's a bit easier than Dark Souls. So let's go and explain some of this other stuff here. So this is my blood code, which is my character class. That's my mage. So your stats are tied with your character class or your blood code here. So if I switch to like a heavy weapons dude, you can see my stats change. So it like automatically changes your level stuff. Like if I go to my heavy fighter character, I can, let me activate this training mode here. Okay, so this is my sort of medium speed weapon that I've got here. But then I can also switch to one of my heavy weapons, which attacks a lot slower because it's heavier, but just does a boatload of damage. But if I were to switch to the mage class, then now all of a sudden, if you look in the sort of middle lower left-hand side, or left of middle to the lower portion, you see like a buster bar across that sword. It means I can't effectively wield this sword anymore. It doesn't really do any appreciable damage. It like massively reduced the damage that this weapon does. Well, I'll just show you. So I'm not able to effectively use this weapon, and I'll hit this training dummy with a light attack. See, it only does 21 damage, right? It's because I'm not, and that's a heavy attack does. Oh, I missed 36 damage. That's not how this weapon's supposed to work. It's because I'm in the wrong character class for it. But if I swap my class back to the fighter who can actually wield it, now a light attack does 402 damage. Heavy attack 671, and I can do a charged attack, which is a double. Oops, wait a minute. We do that again. Yeah, so that's almost 1100 damage with that charged heavy attack. But if I do change to the mage class, I just switched the weapon to a weapon that I can use, and it does just fine. And I can even charge it, and you'll see that white bar that's filling up in the lower left-hand corner is my stamina. Okay, you can use stamina to attack, and then if you block an attack, you use stamina. Obviously, the 1025 on the bar is my health. If you see the number 4 in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, basically says use. That's my health if I want to regen my health. Or it's also items, so I can switch to like a throwing dagger or other items. And then if you look in the very bottom lower left corner, that's 3479, and they call that what do they call that in this freaking game? I forgot. Damn it, I can't even remember what they call it. It's basically souls. It's your experience and your money at the same time. You can either use it to level up or buy stuff, you know, improve stuff, whatever. And it also has the same mechanic of if you die, you drop those souls and then you have to go pick them up. And if you die on your way to pick them up, you lose them for good. So it has that kind of risk reward. And then if you look in the right-hand section of the screen, or the lower right, you see that 27 out of 30. That is what the game calls Ichor or Ichor. I don't know how you pronounce it. I've always heard it Ichor, but I've heard it pronounced different ways. That is just mana. All you need to do is think of that as mana. So that's how much magic you can use. And the little sort of triangle, the dueling diamonds in the lower right-hand corner are basically my magic stuff. They're magic projectiles. There's buffs, like to hit my R2, I can ready up my magic stuff. And if I hit, it shows you the number beside it is how much mana it takes. So if I hit the left button, this is a sort of a shield, and it takes 4 mana. So I hit that, and it gives me a temporary shield where I take less damage, but it takes 4 mana. And the whole time that little diamond is red, I have protection from damage. Not 100%, but it reduces the amount of damage. And then likewise, I have 3 different projectiles. I've got the light projectile, which uses 1 mana. That does 91 damage. Then I have a little bit heavier projectile that, like the light projectile, you just kind of use for kiting enemies to you. If you don't want to get into a battle with like multiple dudes, you can use this to pull one towards you. And then the one that takes the projectile that takes 2 mana, does a bit more, 244. And then the 6 mana projectile, 816. So there's a big difference between how much the mana costs versus how much damage they do. The circle icon will buff my weapon with venom or poison, and it takes 4 mana. So I hit that, and then all the while that weapon is going to do poison damage as well as physical. And I don't think that poison damage shows up on the it doesn't show up on the training dummy here. It just shows physical. But yeah, that way you can poison your enemies as well. Okay, so now let's look at the other stuff. So if I look up here, these are my 2 weapons. It's the heavy weapon. You see the buster bar across that. I can't use it because I'm mage class right now. So we'll go back to the heavy class. So I can swap between these 2 weapons, and you can equip other weapons. There's a bunch of stuff here. The other thing is, okay, mana. How do you get mana? Well, one of the ways that you do it is you have a special type of, like a blood attack, that kind of gives you back mana that you've lost, plus temporarily adds to the maximum amount of mana that you can carry. As you can see on the lower right-hand corner of the screen, as a fighter, my maximum mana is only 16. But if I switch classes to the mage, well, now my maximum mana is 30. But since I switched from having a max of 16, I'm down to 16. So how do I get more mana? Well, one of the ways that you do it is what I'm wearing is called a blood veil, which is basically just your armor. So you go into armor, and there's like looks like 4 different types of blood veils, and you do a certain drain attack. And the one that I'm wearing right now, it causes like a basically it's like a scorpion stinger to come out of me, and it will not only increase the amount of mana I have, but it'll temporarily increase my max mana. So if I hold this, charge it up, and then I attack, you see it gave me 2 more mana, plus it also temporarily gave me more max mana, or the ability to carry more. The one good thing about this particular armor set is it has a really good range on it, because you have to charge up this attack. Okay, I was just out of range. You have to charge up this attack, so if an enemy's kind of coming at you quickly, you won't have time to do this. But if they're unaware, or if they're moving slowly, you can attack them from a pretty good distance, and it'll build up your mana. So that's kind of how you get mana back as you use it. And now you can switch to different ones, and you'll see it changes your armor set like changing your character class. It will change your stats a little bit. It'll change your strength and your dex and your scaling, and then all these required stats that you've got. You see how it changes the attacks up or down. All the numbers change. There's another type that it's kind of like a claw. You charge that up, and then when you release it, you dash forward, and you buff up your mana. And then the other one that I have is a Festive Fang. It's like this one doesn't have quite the range of the other two, but it does 2 attacks, so it does more damage, but it doesn't give you any more total mana. If you've been watching the numbers, you'll see that's because it's 2 hits, it gives you definitely more physical damage than the other ones did. But see, now I'm up to a max of 44 mana, so I can just spam these projectiles, which are on a cooldown. You can just alternate them, you know what I mean? But yeah, so that's the kind of the mana system. That's the sort of blood attack with the blood veil thing. Okay, so now this is the quick use items, you know, where I've got the heals. This is basically your Estus Flask, throwing dagger, and then you could populate this with other items here too. Okay, so now your character class is in the center. This is all your magic stuff. Your projectiles, your weapons buff, your character buff, your, heal your enemy, heal your ally kind of stuff. Now over here, these 4 are passive boosts. So you can kind of enable these, and it will kind of give you a benefit, like as long as you're carrying them. And these all change according to however you've set up your character class. Like you see, I've got like some different things here. This is like a ranged class, right? So this is kind of like a dash that I can use. But all the magics that I have set up and everything else, the passives, they all change according to what character class, what you've set up in that character class, which is, like I say, it's all changeable. Let's see. With that, I think that's kind of the basics of, yeah, these are your 2 weapons you swap between, your armor, character class, these are your quick equip items, these are your passive buffs, and these are your active magic uses stuff that you can kind of use to buff your weapon or yourself or your ally or whatever. Okay, so now having said that, let's finish the training mode. We'll kind of go out into a quick level. Now this is the home base area. There are some merchants here that you can talk to and buy stuff and upgrade stuff, as you would expect from any sort of Souls-like. But we'll go into basically like the first area. I'm going to switch to, let's do this one. I like the range on this. And I'm going to warp to like it's basically the first area you get to after you leave the tutorial, which you can go right to the tutorial at any time if you forget stuff. It's pretty convenient. Let's teleport to underground entrance. All right. Now I'm going to kind of mess around with the enemies and sort of show you some of the attacks on the enemies. I'm going to do it without an AI co-op buddy. See, he's beamed in with me. That's Lewis. But I'm going to rest here and then dismiss him. So he's not like killing dudes while I'm trying to explain stuff. Switch partner. None. Okay, so now he's gone and you can kind of do the level alone. Another thing, mini-maps. Dark Souls did not have mini-maps or exploded big maps, which is kind of great. I love that about this game. Okay, so let's find our first little enemy. Okay, it's this dude with his back to us. Now there is a backstab attack. You have to be lined up just right for it to happen. Let's see if I can make it work. Nope, I didn't. Okay, so now I'm going to try to... First I'm just going to dodge him, because I want to charge up that attack. I want to charge up the attack that will get me more mana. Bip! And that was enough to kill him, because it's very, this is the first level. This is a very low level stuff. Enough to kill him. Now, there's another dude over here to the right. I'm going to kite him with a little, hey buddy, hey buddy. Hey, batter, batter, batter. Okay, now I'm going to try to parry his attack. Now, say I can block, or I can parry, or I can roll, just like Dark Souls. Buttons are different, but the parry timing is also very different here. It's much earlier than in Dark Souls. Let's see if I can land a parry. Nope. There we go. Now the parry if you land a parry, it automatically does this attack, which is one of those that, gives you more mana and max mana. So if you land a parry, it's pretty great. And there's also, let's see, it does that with the backstab too, but I wasn't able to pull that backstab off. I'm going to switch character class, right? So now I'm the heavy fighter and I've got the heavy weapon on. One of the magic items that I can use with this, and you notice when I switched character classes, my mana went from 32 down to 16 of 16, so it went way down. But again, I can also upgrade that by doing this. So now it's 18 of 18. But one of the magic items that I can use with this character, or this character class, is a 3-hit slash with like a heavy weapon, which obliterates dudes. At least, these kind of low-level dudes it does. So I pull the right trigger, and hit the square, bip! Boom, just crushed him. Does a lot of damage. It's obviously it's not going to be as effective on higher level enemies, but you know how it goes. And then there's a run button, of course, just like in Souls. Let's get this guy. Let's get his attention. Can I parry him? Nope. 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 Okay. And let's see about poisoning him. Okay, I don't know if he hasn't built up enough poison yet. My weapon's just so much damage to him, I'm going to kill him before he builds up the poison. Enough poison for it to start ticking down on him. One of the things that the game does with these skills, certain skills you can only use with certain character classes. Until you get proficient with them, then you can use them across other character classes. And if you go into the... I'll go into the menu in a minute. I can't... Like Souls, you can't really pause the game. I was going to try to get a backstab on him. There we go. When you do it, when you do a backstab, it also does the blood attack that gives you more mana. But if you look at these, like these skills have like a little, in the upper right hand corner of the box, have that little star. That means I've gotten proficient enough at them where I can use them with any character class. Like if I switch character classes now, let's say to the mage, right? Okay, this one is like a restorative offering. You can kind of give up a little bit of your health to heal your ally. But I never use this because I don't need to. So it does not have the little star icon in the upper right-hand corner of the square. So that means I can't really transfer this over to other character classes because I'm not proficient with it. But with everything else, well, most everything else, you know, you can say I have done that. All right, but that's enough of that for now. Let's go back to where the hell we were. And I'm going to go rest at the fake bonfire. They call them... I forget what they call them. We'll find out in just a second. Here it is. Missile, whatever. Missile. I don't know how they expect me to pronounce that. But yeah, so I rest at this, like a bonfire. The enemies respawn. But now I can decide to bring my partner in. And now, imagine going through this same low-level area, having a dude with me who's like super aggressive. Basically,
good to be with you.
Yeah. Now see, he's buffed my attacks. You see how he's got little on his health bar over there on the left-hand side of the screen. He's got 3 buffs. I now have a weapons buff because of him. So, once the enemies, like, before they attack, he'll kind of be passive. But once the enemies attack, he'll just sort of jump in. See, I didn't swing at either one of those dudes. He just took them both out by himself. And even if he's not super effective, if you're, like, playing against a boss, then he will take aggro away from the boss, or take aggro away from you, and get the boss to focus on him, which gives you a chance to heal, or to, you know, attack the boss or whatever. But yeah, it's basically, you're just going through with AI co-op, buddy. Which is great. Like I say, it trivializes this early stuff anyway. Yeah, again, didn't even swing on the dudes. But yeah, that's it so far. I mean, that's kind of like, that's really most of what I've learned so far from this game.
Choose the way.
I think I will, buddy. See, now once I've aggroed him, now he's going to take over. So yeah, in that respect, this makes it much easier than Dark Souls. Another great thing about, unlike Dark Souls, this thing has a pretty great frame rate. Dark Souls is notorious for a terrible frame rate. So this thing runs really smoothly. But yeah, like I was going to say, that's sort of about it that I've learned, or just these are my first impressions of the game so far. I really super digging it so far. You know, again, my opinion may change. Who knows? But as of right
Sorry.
now,
I'm on my way.
a few hours in, I am super digging on this. And this coming from someone who has definitely suffered some Soulsborne burnout for sure. I got to the point where I played so much Souls, like Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, 3, Demon Souls, and then a few like Souls likes. I got to the point where I just was burnt out on Souls games. I was tired of the just sort of unfair level of difficulty. Like one of the things I like most about the Souls games is just the minute-to-minute fights against the mobs. The really super difficult bosses, I always hate that crap. So I always, if I could summon in, either a player or an AI character, like Solaire or whoever it is, I would always do that because I don't want it to be super punishing, but I like the just sort of the minute-to-minute cautious difficulty that you would get in a Souls game. So it doesn't upset me at all that this thing isn't like stupid punishing so far. But who knows? It might get super difficult. I don't know. I kind of doubt it. Anytime you can have a co-op, whether it's a human or AI, and like I say, this does have multiplayer in it and multiplayer co-op and stuff. So I have not even touched that yet. So, but anytime you have like a co-op experience like that, even if they're not super effective, at least if they can take aggro away from you and let the enemy focus on them so you can heal up or switch weapons or get a clear attack from a different angle, it's always going to be a little bit easier, and I am perfectly okay with that. So, with that said, that is Code Vein so far for me. That has been my experience within the first few hours of the game. Super loving it. Gonna play the absolute crap out of it. Hopefully my opinion doesn't change. I hope to keep enjoying this game. But as of right now, it's still, until, what is it, the 5th or 6th of April, it will be one of the free PlayStation Plus games. So if you have not picked this up, you don't know anything about it. If you have any affinity for just sort of melee combat games where there's like just kind of exploration and sort of RPG elements, I would definitely say pick it up, at least because it's basically free right now. If you're a PlayStation Plus member, why wouldn't you? But that's about it. Thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you in the next one. I know this one was a bit long-winded and meandering, and I kind of didn't really have an outline of what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. It was disorganized and shambolic. But I think I got through and got across most of the points I was trying to get across. Yeah, also, you're not wrong. It's basically upskirt Dark Souls. So, there's that element. Whether that is a thing for you or not that you care about, it's there. And yeah, there's a incredibly deep character customization in it. And I am responsible for making this character look this stupid. So, yeah, I'm culpable for that. At any rate, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Laters.